I'm so sorry.
All right.
All right, so now you guys, whenever you're ready.
So,
we're so ready.
First of all, Brody's out of control this morning.
Obviously.
I think we need to point that out in case something goes awry.
That's true.
While we're being professionals,
I'm so professional.
Brody's out of control.
Yeah.
So professional that we had a very long FaceTime last night looking through each other's closets, and we were like, okay, yes, this is how we're going to match.
I expect color coordination, even when we're not doing the video. It's kind of the next 14 days.
Even when you're like in the other building, and I just,
absolutely.
Okay, all right.
Sunday mornings, we really need, I think we're going to get the whole band to do it. Mm-hmm. Have you seen those videos where all these wives buy their husband the same shirt? And then they like have a date night, and they all the men show up wearing the same shirt. They don't know they are. That's pretty funny. They're like,
guys aren't nearly as into the Twinkie thing as some women are.
No, it turns out I would not be.
I have seen something pretty epic floating around online where a guy convinced several of his classmates that he knew would be on the same page as him in the yearbook to all wear the same shirt.
Okay.
I think it may have even been one of those things that like, hey, it's your turn to take the picture. Like,
gotcha.
Here's the shirt.
That's
kind of
fun.
But this is pretty epic. So anyway, how's it going?
It's going so good. I mean, now that we've gotten Brody under control, it's really better. But
yes, his handler's not here today.
That's what it is.
Mayor Pike is out. So
yeah, that's okay. But yeah, it was good. We had a really good Sunday. I was really impressed. Got to talk to a lot of new families.
Mm-hmm. I saw you pointed out. I did see a lot of new faces.
Yeah,
so
that's not just something
fun.
that preachers say. That's a real thing. Well, look at all these new.
I see one person with a different hairdo. Lots of new faces here.
That's right. No. Lots of new new makeup. But no, it was good to talk to folks. And I talked about this. We had church planner weekend this Saturday, talking through assessments, and it was really encouraging just to hear how God is calling people in different avenues. So some kind of inner city ministry, some rural churches that have kind of just have declined to a point where they need something new, and that's exciting. And just being able to see God working in the lives of those planters is a reminder, just kind of for our mission too. It's
for sure. They're
still stepping out, preparing. Some of them have dove in. They already dove in, but they. Yeah, it was fun. It was encouraging to see it, and it was fun to share our story, and just kind of talk about where we are. So
right, yeah. So it was encouraging. Like we're still a church plant,
right?
Like because there are so many people there on Sunday mornings. I do think that some people were walking in thinking, "Oh,
yeah,
no, we're still pretty new."
We've actually had to add that to our Discover Old Town because people don't. They are surprised. We had this last one. We had a couple people who were, "Oh, I didn't realize it was that fast."
Well, the building's been there for years. Well, different buildings have been there for years and years and years.
1936. But yeah, so it does look a little different. But yeah, it is neat. And the stories people are bringing with them, people who are moving to the area, doing all of that, and just finding a home. And really, the way that our folks are inviting people to come. I talked to a couple they just mentioned that they were looking for a church, and somebody who attends our church and hasn't actually joined yet. We need to work on that. But they said, "Hey, we love this church. Come here, check it out." And she said she texted her yesterday morning, "Hey, I think this is our place. We really enjoy it." So that's super encouraging. I hope our people are encouraged too, because it has as much to do with just the friendliness and the welcoming and that general feel of the church as anything else. So
and we're still in the gym.
We are in the gym.
We're still in the
gym.
Yeah,
it is a gym. Although I was in the sanctuary a lot. On Saturday, I walked some people over there, and it was looking really good.
Yeah?
It really is.
Is it looking ready for people?
It's looking readier for people.
Readier.
Yeah, I think we're finishing some of the wall stuff, and then we'll do the floors. I think the floors are happening this week in parts of the building.
That is exciting.
But, we have to sand the stage,
refinish that.
Do some work there. But, yeah, it's coming together quickly. The windows are really nice. That was something I didn't realize we were doing. But the frosted windows give it kind of, you feel more encapsulated is not the right word, but that's the right word. So it doesn't feel like you're just randomly looking out at everything going on.
You feel more captive, I think is the word you're looking for.
Prisoner. That's the feel.
You get that captive audience you've always
kind of
wanted.
the walls closing in on you. Is that good?
No, no.
The walls are like hugging you.
The beautiful natural light is still in there.
Yeah, it's very bright.
Maybe a little bit less distracting because you can't see all the cars going by.
Right, and random people walking around.
Right.
Yeah, it is good. No, it looks really good, and it'll
Yeah.
match our new lights on the top.
Yes.
Which are actually our old lights. But
Yes, being refinished
Yeah.
by some amazing volunteers. So
yeah. So it's
that's super
exciting.
exciting.
Yeah, and I think we should do some drywall this week, hopefully. So that'll be good.
drywall's always exciting.
I think so. I mean, I don't know what it is,
In the new
but
lobby
it is
area?
cool.
Is
Yeah,
that
yeah.
sweet?
We've been approved for that. So,
Awesome.
Yeah, it is coming together.
Awesome.
There's the children's group. I think will get their floors in today or tomorrow. So
Very good.
progress.
We'll keep you guys posted.
We love seeing it.
So, big announcement yesterday that I had not even heard.
Yeah.
We are sponsoring.
We are the official sponsor of the
official
Helena Easter egg hunt, the City of Helena Easter egg hunt. So probably should have communicated better with you, but that's okay.
Am I bringing all the eggs?
Yeah, you
Oh,
are.
wow, okay.
You're the bringer. No, we
Gotta boil a lot of
I was
eggs.
excited. So we just contacted the city, talked with Parks and Recreation folks, and said, hey, whatever we can do to help, we'd love to do it. Because we talked about doing our own, but there's really no reason. If we can help the city, if we can partner with them, it made so much more sense. And so April 9th, we'll be out there doing that from 9 to 11. It looks a lot like just helping facilitate the event. They're going to provide some water and some cookies and all of that.
But we're providing.
But providing
candy and eggs.
we're providing the candy. We're providing the eggs.
So how much do we think we need? Because we collected a lot for Fall Fest.
So we have some candy left over from Fall Fest, but we do need a lot of eggs. I haven't gotten the estimate yet. We haven't heard exactly how many people normally come, but I think the key to a good Easter egg hunt is to have too many eggs.
For sure.
It's like when a kid's just like his arm is so tired from putting more eggs in the basket, but he keeps going. Like that's
Much better image than the child standing with nothing because we ran out.
Yeah,
right?
that is a bad feel. I went to an Easter egg hunt when we were up in Nashville, and it was an average of 3 eggs per person, and
Aw.
like every kid was just like, "Where's the rest of them?" And and they didn't have candy in them, which was
Oh, they had to like turn them in and get a bag of candy. Was it that kind of thing?
Yeah. So I think they thought, well, they'll find some eggs, but they'll still get a bag of candy. But it turns out you just want a lot of eggs.
Yes.
So
yes.
it's not hard to make an Easter egg hunt successful. Just have a lot of eggs.
So is it too early for people to just go ahead and start grabbing
No,
that
I
stuff
would
while
love
they're
for
out?
it. It's out
Okay.
everywhere in the stores, so you might as well
Yes.
grab it. If you see a good deal on it. You can buy some candy or buy some eggs.
Mm-hmm.
Just drop them by. We'll start having a little collection area somewhere in the gym there.
Right.
And and we'll start stuffing them. The Helena Teen Council is also going to be helping, so we're going to coordinate with them. I think they last year helped stuff the eggs, so we may just have like a party one night where we just
Egg stuffing
stuff
party.
a bunch of eggs and
All right.
make it happen.
Very
but yeah,
good.
It'll be fun. It's a great way. I mean, this is a community engagement thing.
Right.
We are seeking to connect with our community, help the city,
Mm-hmm.
get to meet folks that may not come to a church thing, but they will come to a city thing.
Right.
And so-
And maybe meet some nice people who make them think maybe they do want to come to church.
Yeah, look,
Right.
if people will meet our people, they'll want to hang out with them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, that's the beauty of. We have incredibly hard workers. We have incredibly just kind people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we have kind 3-year-olds all the way up to kind 90-year-olds. So we want people
So
to get to
below
know us.
3.
Yeah, don't
above
talk
90.
about those below 3s, and I don't know about the over 90s.
We've got some.
Give them some grace,
Yeah.
but no,
Totally kidding. Just
yeah,
by the
totally
way.
kidding. If
I
you're
don't-
91, we are not.
I have not witnessed
We're
any
not mad
bad
at you.
behavior.
Also, I don't really know the difference between a 1 and a 3-year-old very much. So.
That's like 2 years.
Oh wow! Nobody told me there would be math here.
I
So,
mean, you have 2 children. That's kind of
yeah.
interesting that you're
Well, to be honest
not
with you,
familiar. Remind me though,
We just moved and
Uh,
they were young.
it's just all things a blur.
It was blurred.
Where is the egg hunt?
So it's
not
at
on
Joe
our
Tucker
campus.
Park. So it's just
Okay.
across the street. So
Joe Tucker Park.
you see
Okay.
the across the street, the library, and then the cemetery is over here, but then the park is over here. So
Okay.
The younger kids, I think it's under 3 and under, will have a kind of a continuous egg hunt where they can go on the baseball field and it's fenced in, so they can just run around and pick up things.
Okay.
And then the other ones will have times. I think they're already,
Right, like age
put out
groups.
there.
Okay. Okay.
but it'll be fun.
Very good. Start picking up eggs and candy.
Yeah.
We're going to need it.
It's going to be great.
All right. Sermon time.
Yeah, let's talk about this
The
sermon.
Tower of Babel.
The Tower of Babel. You know, really interesting story that probably doesn't get talked about a whole lot because nobody really knows what to do with it. You know, the takeaway is like, don't build a tower. And then you're like, okay. Well, I guess
And
I
people
won't.
have
I'm not.
subsequently built
I
towers.
have. Well,
so
I mean,
it's
think about it.
confusing.
It's kind of built into our. Little kids are always building Lego towers, and so this just shows you the sinfulness of man. But I'm just kidding. Total joke.
Towers in and
But-
of themselves
Right,
inherently
towers
evil.
are fine. Skyscrapers, not a big deal. But when you talk about really what we're talking about is pride and self-sufficiency. And this is such a good reminder for all of us all the time, because we do try to operate in our own strength. And so that was our goal this week, is just to help us to begin to see the areas of our life where we have become too self-reliant, thinking that we are making it in the world and ignoring how God is working in our life and also what he's calling us to do. So I hope that's what came across. It was really interesting just to study the story, because there are a lot of really interesting pieces to it. One of the things that was interesting, I didn't talk a lot about this, but the way that it's written is actually written with a lot of parallelism. So we won't do it here because we can't, but like every part of the story mirrors another part. So the beginning mirrors the end. The middle is kind of the highlight where God comes down, and even the language, the letters of the words are almost all the same. So it's a very well and intentionally constructed narrative. The letters of the words, like Babel and all of these pieces, are all, when you look at the original Hebrew, which again we won't do right now, but it is intentionally constructed to kind of put this forward, and it's actually full of irony. We don't get it as much because we don't have that frame of reference of what Moses and the Israelites would have had. But even the way that they built bricks was different than what the Israelites would have had. And it was actually it was a worse technology, and all of that. So there was kind of a knock against some of the belief that the Babylonians were this powerful group that had all this power, or the people from that area. But it was fascinating. It's just, there's a lot of background. I don't always go into all the background, but that one I thought there's a lot more in that narrative going on than what you see right at the very beginning.
Right. So first point was, because I told you,
Yeah.
somehow I sat through 2 services and I still have a blank line next to point number 1. I'm so sorry.
That's
I was
encouraging.
listening.
It's
I was
encouraging that it
listening.
takes 3
Look at all
times
my other notes.
to
Look at
know.
all
No,
my
you
other
got
notes.
it. I see that.
Will you tell me what point?
So the first point. Yeah, let's tell you what the first point is. So really, the first point essentially was.
So you don't have a first point. That's
No. It's right here. It's right here. I just have to find it. Well, actually, no. The first point was we have a natural inclination to move away from God's instruction. So there's this natural inclination in our hearts. We just have to. It's really just admitting it. We know it's there. Other people can see it probably before we can in our own hearts, but we just have this natural inclination to move away from God's instruction. And I wish it wasn't the case.
It's just sinful
but
man.
It is. Yeah. It's just in our nature to try to go our own. And it's a good reminder, because until you admit it, you're not going to move against it. You're not going to identify it or think, okay, I need to stop. Or you're going to have too high of a picture of yourself.
Right.
And you're going to become really self-righteous, and then that's its own form of becoming that. So we do have this natural inclination, and you saw that in the people as they began to move. They migrated from the east and began to gather together, which was against the rules. I mean, it was not against the rule, but it was against God's instruction. So he was telling them, spread out, and they were not doing it. So.
And you do see that in children. We were, talking about toddlers earlier. I've told a couple stories about Lily. This may be the first time I'm mentioning Ren, which they both love, of course. They love to be.
Yes, my children also.
They love for me to post old pictures of them where they didn't have teeth and things like that. So, but I will never forget Ren, 2.5, maybe 3, wanted a sippy cup with some juice in it, and she would not say please. And it was half an hour, 45 minutes in the kitchen, tears, just like she was so angry and frustrated. And I was just like, babe, you just have to say please and I will get it for you. And she would not do it. And but that makes me think of us. It's like, that sometimes we are just fighting and just like clawing. And God's just like,
He's like, just do this and you'll get
Yeah.
everything that you wanted.
We have-
That's the
yes.
irony. Is like, he's
Certainly
trying to,
everything you need.
he's trying to
Yeah.
give you what you need,
Yeah.
and you're like, nope, I'm gonna do it on my own.
Right.
And I'm not gonna admit that I need you to help me.
Right.
That's really funny. Yeah, I mean,
It's probably the best cup of juice she ever had when
well,
when she
she really
ultimately
worked
said,
for it. Let's be
"Please."
honest.
Then she had to say thank you, and that was another hour. No, I'm kidding. I think she had learned her lesson at that point.
At that point, you're just tired, and you're like, I'll say whatever you want, Yeah, I mean, we just have those struggles, and you see that even in, even as kids get older, even as we got older, just things that that are frustrating to people, and you're like, I don't know why I keep doing it, but I just do. It is something we will wrestle with our whole life.
Right.
Part of the Christian life is the mortification of sin, which is putting sin to death, and so just constantly trying to grow out of that or whatever. But there will always be those areas of our life where we struggle or we pull away from God, and it's just a good reminder.
Well, it's interesting. I did get one of the things that you said in
Yeah,
the first one.
sure.
But you said a lot of our ambition is motivated by fear, and it's the fear that we won't be in control.
Yeah.
So we want so badly at times to be in control that we would rather make a bad decision because it's our decision.
That's right. Yeah.
Which is a wild thought. And that leads me to the second point. A lot of the struggle that we have is just coming to terms that we are fully dependent on God.
We are, and that was, there was a moment where I've always known that, you can know this intellectually, but it's hard sometimes to know it in your heart. But I do remember there was actually a time we were singing this song. It talks about like God gives like the air in your lungs. Breathe.
It's your breath in
It's
our
your
lungs.
breath in our lungs. Yeah,
So
yeah.
we pour out our praise.
Yeah. So like it is, and that just triggered something for me where I realized like even the breath that I have to speak to somebody, I was getting up to talk for like a sermon, and I thought, all these anxieties I have or all of these ambitions I have, all of it is just fueled by God. Like to talk is the breath that God has given me that time,
Right.
for that word,
Right.
and it clicked with me a few years ago, just thinking about how incredibly dependent we are, and that's, we don't like that because we want to be self-reliant, we want to be strong, and we can be strong, but through the strength that God gives us, and,
Yes.
and that's the thing we wrestle with, but I do think when we come to terms with that, our expectations begin to match the reality of this world, that we just need to live lives of trust and faith versus trying to control the circumstances.
Right.
And it doesn't mean a passive existence. It doesn't mean we just sit around and we're like, well, if God wants me to do something, it'll happen. But it does mean that we go to him first before we make our own plans and write all that out.
Right. And it can be scary at first, but I think ultimately it's a huge comfort.
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
to know that. And then your third point.
Yeah.
I actually don't help write your sermons. Some people have asked me that. I'm like,
Oh,
no.
have they? That's. I'll send you the
Only Brody.
I'll
Brody's
send you the
the one who's
manuscript.
asked.
We'll figure it out.
True achievement is a life that is obedient and aligned with the purposes of God.
Yeah. Yeah, and what we're talking about here is the people of Babel were trying to be defined by their achievement, and that achievement turned out to be opposed to the will of God.
Right.
And so let's say they were successful, because there are a lot of people whose achievements are very successful.
In the world's eyes.
In the world's
Right.
eyes, yeah. I mean, worldly success, whether it gathers resources or influence for them or fame, whatever it is, they're successful, but not in anything that God had called them to do, or they were successful for a while in what God called them to do, and they decided to leverage it for their own good and not for the kingdom. And that's a challenge. You see that in business, you see it in churches, unfortunately, you see it really in every aspect of life. I mean, whether if you're an athlete, and you can take what God has given you, because God's given you the ability to hit the ball or shoot the ball, and you can use that to leverage for His glory, or you can use it for your own glory. And so it's always, again, it's this constant temptation. But when you look at it, and this is always dark, so I try not to talk about it all the time, but we have done a number of funerals lately, and attended some funerals, and those are always such stark reminders that the things that really matter to people were the kindness that you showed, was the devotion to God, was the fact that they knew where you stood in your faith. And that's, I mean, one of the greatest gifts you can give your loved ones is that they have the security of knowing that you follow Jesus.
Right.
I mean, it's not the resources you leave behind. It's not all. It's that security that they know that you are in heaven and that you have received God's grace.
Right.
And so I try not to go dark all the time on that, but it is very reflective because
I mean, I think it's important to point out because thankfully I think most people don't attend as many funerals as a pastor
well, that's
does,
true.
right?
There's not as many.
They're just not around it as much.
Yeah.
And I told you, we've had this conversation before, all the funerals that I've sung at, and it used to be a lot back in Georgia, but that always struck me too. I mean, it was always a thought, like, what kind of impact am I making on people? You know, are people going to have to stand up at my funeral one day and make up nice things, or just like, well, you never doubted that she loved peanut butter, or whatever it is.
I have not seen one of those really recently, but I am familiar because, they're like, well, he was very devoted to the Dallas Cowboys. I'm
right.
Like, okay, well, that's a fact that is true of him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But you just don't want that to be the only fact,
No,
or the most important fact.
And every now and then it is important, I think, for us to look at the big picture of life and to understand that death is a regular part of existence in this world. And even though it has been defeated by Christ, it still exists in our world. And now it doesn't mean the end, but it does mean that there's a phase that we'll experience. And so we don't need to dwell on it, but we do need to be honest about it and at least be reflective that this life is temporary. And so let's use it to leverage the kingdom. Let's use it to honor God, to bring people along. So it's good. I hope the next point's a funny point.
Not too dark.
Yeah.
Our understanding of grace needs to include all God prevents us from doing. I thought that was a really good thing to include in this whole.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure that the people were incredibly disappointed that their city failed. They stopped building the tower, and they were dispersed. And I'm sure they were incredibly disappointed their achievements failed. But in the end, God was preventing them from creating a culture that basically looked like the pre-flood culture, where they had forgotten about God, where violence had taken over, or where self-reliance had taken over. And so it was a preventative measure. And then you can use that and look at our own lives and say, there are times when I wish this was happening, or I was trying to do this, but then it just didn't work out. And we can say, God was probably preventing something. He was either preventing a level of judgment, or just he had a better path for you.
Right.
And that's hard to trust in the moment, but that is one of those where you look back and you think, this probably was really wise. That this was good. And even if it's not good in the sense that, I didn't get that job, but this job paid more in the end. That's not necessarily the good that we're talking about. We're talking about maybe you grew through that adversity. Maybe you grew in understanding forgiveness because it actually was a harder path, but you had experienced it, and now you have expanded. I mean, we grow through trial more than just an easy path. So, I think, again, we're not going to always understand that. We're not always going to appreciate it. I mean, there are things that I wish would have happened, in my own life. I wish, I thought we were going to go this direction, and we went a different direction. And I don't know if it could have all worked out. God could have used either path, probably, for sure, for his glory. But it also helps you, and I didn't mention this yesterday, but it also helps you just appreciate where you are and know that God is in control in that moment too. One of the hardest things to get out of, to help people stop thinking, is that they've made some kind of choice where God now can't really use them. You're on plan C for God. There is no plan C. There's no plan D. God hasn't thought, well, now we've got to back it up. The reality is we really need to just appreciate God is working in the midst right now, wherever we are, and just be obedient in the moment. So it's good.
Right. And then you left us with a question.
Yeah.
And that question was,
And that question,
I do have it written down. I'm not
okay.
asking you.
Yeah, I was like,
Are you trusting in towers?
yeah.
Are you trusting in towers
Are you
and
trusting
chariots?
in towers? Are you trusting in chariots and horses? Are you trusting in yourself? That Jeremiah passage about those who trust in the flesh and in man. That it's just a great reminder because it says like this is not an option. To try to do those things. And I think that is the question we all have to ask ourselves and look in different aspects of our life. It's easier to trust God for healing because you're not a doctor and you can't heal yourself. It's harder to trust God in vocation and job or trust God in relationships or prayers that you have. We're going to talk a lot about prayer coming up. Talking to God about prayers that just simply that haven't been answered in the way that you'd like for them to be answered. That is a lot trickier because then you start to think, well, if God's not going to do it, we're talking about Abraham. Abraham and Sarah, they're a great picture of. They thought, well, you know what, God has promised you a child, but it hasn't happened yet. Here's a way to do it. Let's circumvent
figure this out
the rules.
ourselves.
Yeah,
yes,
we can make it happen. And he
needs our help.
Yeah, right. He must not be able to figure it out, so I'll do it for him. So. Yeah. Again, we just have to be mindful of those things. So, are you trusting in towers? Are you trusting in yourself? Or does our confidence and hope? It's trust, but it's also our hope and our confidence. Like, are you confident in God's work, and is that where your hope lies? Have you hedged your hope and thought, well, I have hope in if I keep my bank account here, and if I can, but also hope in God. If we can do both, they'll leverage each other. But no, it really is my hope entirely in God.
Right.
Is my confidence in God's care and love for me. And
which is why we responded with that song. The first words we sang after your sermon were, "In Christ alone, my hope is found."
Yeah, I love it.
Not partially in Christ.
Right.
I have hope. Other things I can do myself.
Yeah.
Just doesn't roll off the tongue as easily, for one. But secondly, not true.
It's right. That's right.
Not true. All right.
Well, good.
Yeah, good talk. Once again, eggs, candy, just go ahead and start buying them. Just
do it.
We want you to pull up to the church, open up your trunk or the back of your car, and it just comes falling out. That's how much you have.
That would be a lot. But we'll pick them up.
But again, just picture that child with no eggs or only 3.
It'll keep me up at night.
Yes.
I'm telling you. No, it'll be really good. And this Wednesday night, we kick off our new midweek series where we're going to be talking about prayer. Really, the whole church, everything begins to focus in on prayer for the beginning in March.
Right.
But we started a little early on midweek just to kind of prepare our hearts for it. So I'm excited. It'll be a chance for us to pray very intentionally, but also get a fuller understanding of prayer. And we'll see a lot of stuff rolling out about that. So.
Looking forward to that. And then March 4th, don't forget, if you want to attend the missions dinner.
Sign-ups are going well, but we would love for you to jump on.
Okay.
That'll be great.
Great.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.